Skim kandeo entaya skin kaya na. This is the sound of the secret language that has to do with placing systems into your visual day-to-day exhilaration, into your day-to-day processes, into your day-to-day flow, into your day-to-day exhilaration, into your day-to-day excitement, where you put a different language in front of your vision, in front of your numbers, so that you see a different way, so that you have a different perspectivization as you are perceiving the world, as you are rebalancing what seems like it's valuable, but you're reperspectivizing so that you focus on perceived value, and you invest in low-cost perceived value that has high perceived value, but low cost in terms of monetary value, in terms of transitioning this value, in terms of adding systematization to certain games, to be able to change certain games in the world, to be able to develop a certain process that fits to your mold, that fits to your investing DNA, that fits to who you are, to developing games in the world, to be able to develop systematization for existing processes, to be able to develop a way to sell high perceived value at a low cost of acquisition, in essence. But this entails more or less trying to make a constraint that you must follow in an organic, in a disciplined fashion that is organic to your soul at the same time, but at the same time, like, it's comfortable to your soul, but at the same time must be set in place and set in a ritualized sense, so that ritual does not break, just like a system, just like a machine, just like an engine in essence, once you've decided to play the game you want to play, that in essence you develop your own systematization so that you're able to win, and there's a very rigid process of how to play that game and how to play that process and how to run your engine through that market, through that demand, through that synergy with yourself, including the market energy, so that you are able to add value to that specific business and to that specific market and to that specific marketplace, so that you've got your own engine that has to do with, like, adding certain value into, like, a certain engine. It's like adding a little bit of a scooper of water into a lake, in essence. You're like adding a machine which has a specific process etched out into a lake, and you're scooping out water, and then you're taking that water and you're putting it into a different place. And that is how and why monetary energy has perpetual back-end processes in terms of the monetary energy flow, in terms of the whole entire world, in essence. But at the same time, what we're talking about is trying to add systematization, but when in the context of games, in the context of looking at businesses as games, it's a matter of also, like, inventing games, basically inventing games. And so the purpose of this podcast, in essence, is to be able to talk about how all people in the world should start inventing games, should starting today. It's like a call to action, in essence, to be able to, and we also changed our name of Dinky Tech and Change for Game Studios to Dinky Tech Change for Games. So it's like a call to action within the name of our brand name, in essence, now, more or less. So it's just trying to get the call to action straight away, so that action calling is part of the name, and it's an organic process, so that straight away we're starting to call to action, making call to actions within these podcasts, more or less, going forward. I guess, well, to a certain degree, by making it gamified, by making gamifications a call to action, so that making more games and more games for change is the call to action, and it's the code in the name brand, in essence, at the same time. Dinky Tech Change for Games. We're telling Dinky Tech, the dog, the figment dog, fake dog, bat dog, in essence, logo, mascot, person, scenario, mascot, to be able to change for games. That's a command. It's like telling a dog to do magic by changing for games. It's like a single command that is on repeat. It's on repeat. That is the command that's on repeat. In essence, that's what I'm talking about in terms of systematization, in terms of finding a marketplace. This is where we're targeting the unfulfilled potential market, more or less, to be able to try to help the world by hopefully focusing on just changing for games, changing the unfulfilled potential market into the fulfilled potential market, so that as soon as today, it's possible that for you or any person in the world that has access to the internet to go onto the computer and start to go onto the computer and have a direct free business, a brand new free business. Figure out something that aligns with your heart and your soul, like some kind of a brand, some kind of a market, mostly a market. In other words, a market pool of demand. What is a market pool of demand? What is a pool of demand? What is a pool of demand in the world? Start to look around in the world. What is a pool of demand in the world that I'm I'm interested in. Look at the niche specifics of it, write it down so that there's 10 characteristics of the market demand, in essence, that you're looking at and you're interested in the whole world. And you kind of have to scan the whole world at the same time, because this is something that you want to stick to. You want to make an engine into this market demand. So at the same time, like for me, the game of soccer was one of the first games I ever played, in essence, whereby you can add there's a certain ebb and flow to life, in essence, but you can add certain rituals, certain skills, certain processes that you want to stick to and stick by. For example, in one of an internal little clock mentalizations that I had in my mind when I was playing the game of soccer a long time ago, is to start to add a structure where nobody could break through a barrier that was in essence around me as I was holding the ball, in essence, and I had to stick to that process, stick to that structure. When it first turned into a structural game, and adding structure into the game, and adding structuralization into the game, and adding systematization into the game of soccer, in essence, there was a circle around me, and it was there was a pretend instance one day where it was you would actually fall ill, I would become ill, I would get sick if somebody was able to step inside of that circle. The circle was similar to a video game, in essence, like the game of FIFA the game, the video game, the soccer video game, in essence. That video game I used to play a lot, and it developed a systematization, a focus, of a development of a focus, of a conceptual focus, of a conceptual outline of the game, of the field, of how everybody on the field was outlined from a bird's eye perspective, from a top eye perspective, from a looking above perspective, to be able to outline and be able to get a sense of where everybody was on the field at all given times by having that perspectivization, by playing that game on ritual, on repeat, by practicing that game, by practicing those processes, practicing that circle, with that having that circle around that player on the field, that visualization, that mentalization, having a circle drawn around that player. That was me on the field playing the video game of FIFA, the video game, the soccer video game, for a long time, many years, playing the FIFA soccer game until one day I was thinking, when I was on the field playing the game of soccer, playing that virtual reality game, and then transitioning that into the real life game, that I was thinking to myself, okay, if anybody gets into this circle, this fake circle that's around me, I would fall ill. It's a pretend game. It's obviously a pretend game. It's a mentalization. It's a visualization. It's a conceptualization. But with that conceptualization, literally, if somebody was able to break through that barrier, then I would fall ill. I would get a weird, some sort of ailment, and I would feel bad, and then I would have to take, medicine for several weeks, and it would put me out of my daily schedule and my daily processes, and I'd be very sad and annoyed for a good chunk of time, and it was very irritating. So I had that visualization, that conceptualization, with that mentality, with that focus, once it sort of set in place, when I really didn't want that, when I was really against that sort of anybody entering the circle, in essence, there, to a certain extent, then it allowed nature to take over, and it allowed a system to take over where nobody was allowed to come into the circle, and then somehow through magic, little certain shifts of essences of nature and the perspectivization and systematization of a game that I was already playing, of a game that I enjoyed, of a game that had to do with a lot of other people that also were playing that game, in essence. It allowed me to have a system in place, and an engine to a certain extent, where every time I had the ball, I had that mentality, I had a visualization, I had a focus, I had a concept to be able to try to focus on, to be able to bring with me into life, going forward into life, that certain processes can be systematized, certain games that you're playing can be systematized, and every time therefore that I started to play the game, it changed and improved and enhanced the game, and it was like a leg up by having a strategy in place, by having an engine in place, by having a process in place, by having something in place to be able to bring and carry the game forward, that gave me a leg up and an advantage based on having an engine that sort of offered a more efficient process for playing a game, whereas other people that were playing the game didn't necessarily have a strategy in place, and it contextualized and reframed the whole process of playing the whole game from A to Z, from A to B, from start to finish, by having a mentality that was consistent and disciplined, that it's always stayed in place. It had to stay in place like an engine. An engine doesn't change the process that it goes through. It's repetitive, it's circular, it's cyclical, just like we changed the name of our company, of our brand, into Dinky Tech Change for Games, as opposed to Dinky Tech and Change for Games Studios. More or less, we had to have the same syllables as Dolce & Gabbana, so it's Dinky Tech and Dinky Tech Change for Games, but it's also a call to action. We removed the and at the same time, it's just directly calling an ongoing, perpetual call to action, a directly ongoing, perpetual call to action, in essence, in action, call to action. And that's the name of the logo, that's the name of the company, and it's also a code. It's a code that's perpetual energy, perpetual energy, perpetual energy. And at the same time, money is perpetual energy. Cash flow is perpetual energy. If you change your conceptual cash flow, if you change your process, if you change the dynamics of your life, if you change the weight that's in your backpack, if you change any given elements every single day, any given elements, you're changing the paradigm, you're changing the conceptual paradigm, you're changing the frequency, you're changing the pressures that you have against yourself, against the whole entire world. In essence, a global ecosystem, global ecosystem at all given times. So the call to action for this podcast the more or less the call to action within this episode, in essence, has to do with going online, connecting with the internet, basically connecting with ChatGPT as the first, most easy artificial intelligence tool to be able to try to resonate with and be able to try to get some of the artificial intelligence to do some of the work by asking it, what is a game for change that would have to do with X, Y, and Z, that has to do with something that you're interested in personally? What is a game for change that I could develop? What is a sport? In other words, what is a sport that I could make up, that I could develop, that has to do with me and business and the whole world ecosystem, that has to do with, that can help me bring down borders so everybody in the world can continue to play this game together. This is part of the prompt. You say all these things to the ChatGPT. You add it into the ChatGPT. You say X, Y, and Z is the blank. That has to do with you personally, who you are as a person, and what you like personally, and what markets you like, and what aspects of what markets you enjoy, and what you care about, and what types of business that you care about, what type of business that is X, Y, and Z. That's what you ask ChatGPT to make that type of business for you. Specifically, that's going to make your unique business plan, a unique business model, a unique game plan set out directly to try to help you change the world directly from your feet, your footprints, your the soles of your shoes, more or less. So you ask ChatGPT, what is a business that I can develop for that it has to do with X, Y, and Z to help me change the world, so that all people can play this game all around the world and be able to help bring down borders, so that all people can connect and go across different borders to be able to continue to play this game. Like Pokemon Go, for example, is a type of augmented reality game that people are able to play, except this game, we want it to cause philanthropy. We want this game to cause philanthropy on the back end of this game as like a residual effect, as like the tailpipe exhaust of this vehicle as a game. It's also like a business vehicle where people have the ability, just like in soccer, they have the ability to buy cleats, they have the ability to buy shin guards, so to speak. So there are merchandise items that you're able to buy to be able to play the game a little bit better, and equipment to be able to buy to play the game that you can conceptually manufacture, to be able to conceptually develop the game, to conceptually introduce the game to the world, and then let this plant the seed to be able to develop your own business that is a game for change, or a change for game, or to be able to change the world by using games, changing the world by using games, changing the world by using games, more or less. And so at the same time, you're trying to develop this little menial process, so it develops a seed in your brain, so you can hold on to that ChatGPT, especially if you connect an email, I think, then you can hold on to that ChatGPT prompt, and then you have that information, you can hold that information going forward, whatever it tells you, and then at the same time, whatever that is, just like Dinky Tech Change for Games, the company, the brand that we're trying to work on, that we're trying to build through this podcast, it's not a fleshed out company yet. It's very not a fleshed out company at all. It's just very much, me shouting into a microphone more or less each day these days with an attempt at conceptual potential surrounding, circulating what I call plates. They're called something I call plates. They're also something I call circles, which are also known as partnerships in essence. And like those partnerships have the other side of the partnership to be able to keep the plate spinning, more or less, and that's the energy that continues, that you have to sell to at first, and there's a sell word at the top of the plate and there's a buy word at the bottom of the plate, and you start with the sell word at the top of the plate because that's what continues to that's what gets the plate spinning to begin with, by selling that energy to begin with, to be able to talk to somebody else who's a partner, to start the partnership, to start the merchandising, to start the conceptual supply flow, by conceptually talking about selling that conceptual idea, that conceptual partnership with the person that you want to talk to, which has to do with any conceptual given business value mindset that you can possibly share with another human being around the world, conceivably by talking to them about it and partnering with them conceivably. And that portfolio of businesses, of conceptual partnership businesses, can grow consistently and consecutively around the world into different ways, and systematizations can continue to sustain those processes around the world as well. And that's an ideal goal, to be able to continue to do that as well, because we want to make multiple games for change. We want to make multiple games for change businesses, and we want to continue to grow portfolios based around developing new sports. We're trying to develop new sports for game, new sports for change by adding systematization that's unique. And we want to ask ChatGPT, to get back to ChatGPT, we want to ask ChatGPT to develop new sports. We want to ask ChatGPT to develop new sports, in essence, and to use the word sports as opposed to games, because sports are something that have more to do with business than they do to not do with business. Like games tend to be not to do with business more so frequently than the word sports does. And it's just kind of, it's just kind of that way, because sports has to do with leagues, it has to do with organization, it has to do with facilitation of continuity, of consistency, of something that's like ingrained as a sport because it's well established, it's well known as a game. and it's well appreciated, and it's well more or less accepted and acknowledged and absorbed into culture to a certain extent. And so with all those things in mind, we want to ask ChatGPT to develop a new sport. And then on the back end of that, on the back end of doing this front end work, you get a free business because you can make clothing, you can develop clothing around this to be able to try to pre-sell, and not even pre-sell, but just to be able to make fans and people that care about, and people that have an interest in developing the back end, the back side of this by reaching out. And also you can reference us, Dinky Tech. Feel free to reference Dinky Tech Change for Games, the brand, the company, the support, the foundational support, the mothership, if you will, for lack of better words, to be able to try to promote and look towards, to be able to try to use us as like a little backdrop of a collaboration sort of energy to be able to focus on. If you want to give a shout out, because we're continuing to try to push and promote any of these people's, any of your businesses going forward in the future anyhow. So we want you to try to make merchandising. You can go on something called printify.com and you can make free clothing. Basically you can make free clothing. You can make free clothing and have it print on demand. So you get a free business, print on demand clothing, which is basically also at the same time merchandise for your sport, for your business, for your brand, for your cause, for your new business. This is basically a new business, but it's a sport. It's a sport at the same time. We're focused on sports. We're focused on games. We're focused on sports to be able to try to help change the world, that can be played across borders, at least a couple borders in surrounding areas, to just introduce the games. You just want to be able to introduce sports. We want to be able to introduce sports. And on the back end of it, the residual a reward for doing this front end work is getting a clothing company. Basically, you get a clothing company for free. Everybody gets a clothing company for free. It's called printify.com. You go there, you develop your clothing company, and you can add it and distribute the concepts and the names and the pipelines of distribution into different distribution aspects and funnels that are already built in to that website. And you've got clothing on the front end, you've got print on demand processes and people that are partnerships already to begin with that are filed into that website, and they can as well fulfill orders and automatically send out orders to different people that are able to make orders based on the back end of your promotion for your new sport, your brand new sport. And then you can try to continue to flesh out the sport and play the sport for real, because it's just kind of for fun anyways, and you can play it in your free time, and you can try to develop a certain ball or a certain piece of equipment that could have to do with and go with along with that sport, because that sport has to do with not only fun, not only changing the whole world because everyone can play it together, but at the same time it's for fun. So you want everybody to have fun. You want everybody who's part of your network and process to be able to have fun and to continue to add value. And so you get a free business, basically free businesses. It's a free business giveaway as a little bit of a prompt, a little bit of a incentive for being able to just do the front end work by talking to ChatGPT and and developing a new game, developing a new sport. Everyone should be developing new sports every single day by collaborating with artificial intelligence, since that's more or less the most powerful thing that artificial intelligence can be used for today in terms of collaboration and in terms of things that it can invent, because it can invent systematizations at the same time as the marketing, as the process of the sport that in of itself, and that hopefully can spawn this whole new world of Change for Games, the whole new world, the whole new collaboration foundational platform, which is Change for Games, Change for Games Studios. Change for Games Studios is the collaboration foundational platform for changing for games, so that all countries, all borders can come down, so that all neighboring borders can go across. You can go across borders and then go knock on your friend's door across borders and play games, play brand new sports that are meant to take over the world, because that is what we need, is fresh sports, not a lot of old stuff that is being rebooted and such things. None of those things. None of those things. More philanthropy sports. And at the same time, we want to talk about the words payment and payment. We have payment, putting in payment in the direction of like assets, almost like towards the direction of focus and hope and interest, to be able to try to help things to try to come to fruition. That's payment into a certain cause and development. It's like another word for payment, but at the same time it's different. And at the same time it still counts as assets that's being added to and contributed to a cause to be able to help grow that cause. Payment, and also payment. These are both forms of payment. Both forms of payment that you can add into the direction of trying to grow an entity, a cause, because the more that you play the game, the sport that you're trying to build and develop, over time, in the short and the long term, the more that you play, you give it playment, you're giving it a payment using playment. You play the game, and you get other people to play the game, That's a payment into the cause. So you got payment and playment to continue to try to help you grow your brand new business that you just developed with artificial intelligence for free. And then on the back end of that, you have merchandise that you can continue to make with artificial intelligence art, also by uploading it consistently and developing a brand new clothing brand for free. And then hopefully you can tag Dinky Tech and Change for Game Studios, and we'll make collaboration art, and such things. But you can keep all the money. Just tag us, put our logo on it, and so we can try to continue to grow our cause worldwide. Make the most sports, the most philanthropic sports as best as possible, the fastest time possible. In addition, all right. Thanks again. Bye, Dinky Tech, Change for Games. Bye, peace. Bye, Change for Game Studios. We're still Change for Game Studios for a while. 'Cause nobody knows we're out here for now. Not well enough at least, and we're trying to improve upon that. Yeah. Alright, bye, peace, bye. Thanks again, Dinky Tech, bye. And Change for Game Studios, bye, peace, bye.